Welcome back, mother lovers, to a brand new episode of Last Call at McLaren's, the best damn How I Met Your Mother podcast on the internet. I am your host. What? That's right. Come at us, bro. I am your host.
Yellow Umbrella podcast.
Yeah, and there's another one. Hey, Beautiful, I think is one.
Aw, you didn't have to call me beautiful.
How I Met Your Podcast. Things like that. I don't even know if that one's still going, honestly. I have no idea. But this one is definitely still going, and it's going to go strong, folks. Don't you worry. I am your host, Josh, here with my best bud, John. How you doing, man?
Dude, I am great. It is a beautiful day out. It's finally starting to look kind of springish outside.
Yeah, you wouldn't know if you looked at the weather app that I got. It's like 8 degrees where I am, but it does not feel like that. You know, I went outside. I was like, "There's no wind," so it actually felt okay. I was surprised.
That's what I'm saying. Like, without like the freaking wind chill and shit like that, it feels warmer than they claim.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I can deal with it if there's no wind. Although when it gets all windy and shit, nah. That's why I gotta pull the scarf out. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I'm like, oh man, it's snowing and blowing really hard. I guess I should really wear a good hoodie.
Guess I should put shoes on and not sandals.
Yes.
But yes, folks, we are here with another episode of How I Met Your Mother, Season 2, Episode 10, Single Stamina. You know, last week we covered Slap Bet, one of the best episodes out there. Now we're into Single Stamina. We're gonna meet a new character that we haven't actually met yet, and I love this guy. We're finally gonna meet Barney's brother James.
Yeah, played by Wayne Brady.
Yeah, man, I love it. His character is fantastic. I don't know. I've always, anytime he pops up, is enjoyable, I think.
Oh, dude, I love his appearances.
Yeah. All right. So this episode aired November 27th of 2006. So this was a just after Thanksgiving episode, but they hadn't done one yet because we don't actually get the first Thanksgiving until next season.
Yeah. Which
is Slapsgiving, which I'll be bringing into the conversation at the end of the episode. Yeah, so a little teaser there for you folks. So this episode is directed by Pamela Fryman, of course, the great Pamela Fryman, and written by Kristen Newman. Now, this is her second and final episode of How I Met Your Mother, as far as writing goes. She also wrote the Ted Mosby Architect episode.
Ted Mosby, Architect.
Yeah, and she co-executive produced the entirety of season 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she also recently served as a co-executive producer on the Hulu show Only Murders in the Building, which I have watched and is very good. I highly recommend it. And she served as a writer on shows like The Neighbors, Chuck, and That 70s Show.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, so the summary for this episode. Barney's gay black brother comes to town to serve as his wingman, and the gang discovers a secret he is keeping from Barney.
Ooh.
So like I said, we get to finally meet Barney's brother James in this episode. Also, another note about this episode. Every single member of the group, including James, wears purple in this episode at one point.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I was like, it starts off hot. I was like, oh, there's like 3 of them in one shot. And then I noticed another. I was like, huh. So I was like keeping tabs on this one, like real close to see. And we don't get the last one until like the very end of the episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, interesting. I don't know what it all means, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts when we get through all of that. All right. So let's get into this. You ready to talk How I Met Your Mother, John?
Always.
All right. So the episode starts off with future Ted talking about how great winter in New York is, which, fuck you, man.
I mean, maybe
I don't care how
City.
pretty. Yeah, I don't care how pretty it is, man. Winters in New York suck.
Yeah, but you got to realize, though, the big difference is they're in New York City where there's a lot to do and a lot to see, and it's better maintained.
We live true, in, but they still live on the ocean.
True.
Like, I feel like we get where you live now and where I used to live, lake effect snow is a thing. I mean, I have to assume that there's like that being by the ocean is just as bad. I don't know, but I know being on a lake is terrible.
It is, because it either protects you or fucks you.
Yeah, and when it fucks you hard.
It's November.
Yeah, it's not good stuff. And so Ted, Robin, Marshall, Lily, they're all in what he's calling a couple's hibernation at this stage. You know, they want to stay in, they want to, drink, hot cocoa and coffee and just be in their PJs and be real snuggled in and nice and warm and not go out, which is the opposite of what Barney wants to do. He is desperately trying to get them to go out with him for various reasons.
Oh yeah, he's got like a series of things he wants to do.
Yeah, and they're like, nah, we're not doing this. And so Barney has to resort to bringing in reinforcements, and he finds himself a brand new wingman in his brother James.
Like how you blanked on the name Wingman?
Yes, I did.
You're like,
brand new.
It's a thing,
It's a bird person, a brand new bird person. I'm going to start calling you my bird person. How's that?
Fair enough.
All right.
I can respect that.
Squawk, squawk.
Chirp, chirp, motherfucker.
It's funny because before he brings James in, we get a shot at him at the bar trying to play the "Have You Met" with himself.
Yes.
And it's "Have you met me?" and it just fails spectacularly.
So bad. And she was hot. Like, she was a really good-looking girl.
Have you ever tried to do that by yourself?
No.
I mean, I don't see a situation where that's really going to work. I just really don't see that working out very well for anybody.
I don't typically see "Have you met Josh" working very well in public though either. Because like, for one, we're not the kind of guys that girls like want, typically.
Yeah, we're not the good looking dudes like Barney and James are. I'm just saying.
Nope. That's why I just started growing out this wicked beard and said, "Fuck it."
Hells yeah, man. The ladies do like my hair, so I will say that. I got that going for me. That's about it.
That's fair.
So like I said, he calls in reinforcements. His brother James comes into town. But Robin is the only one who has not met James yet. And all they tell her about him, other than, he's just like Barney and everything, is that he's gay. So we know.
And I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, he's gay. That's all you need to know.
Until he walks in the door and she sees that he's also a black guy. And obviously Ted did this to mess with her to see what her reaction would be.
I love his response, though. I guess I just don't see color like that. Like,
yeah. Oh, man. It was so funny. He's just messing with her. And I love that because they're in that stage of their relationship where they can do that.
Yeah.
And so this is in this scene. This is where I first noticed it. Marshall is wearing a purple hoodie. Barney is wearing his like purple shirt and tie combo. And then when James walks in, he's also wearing a purple tie. So a lot of purple going on in this first meeting of James scene. A lot going on there. I don't necessarily know why Marshall, like how it would fit in with him. But like I said, everybody wears purple at some point.
Sometimes it's not about the person; it's just about the color being there,
about the situation happening. Yeah. So I could see that a lot is going on.
And Marshall is kind of hesitant to wanting to go out in this scene. Like he uses the whole like I've got soup belly. Like,
it's true. He does have soup belly. I gotta say, man, warm soup belly. It's a good feeling.
What kind of soup?
I like. I make a homemade cheddar potato. It's good.
Oh, you do. It is
so good, and I could fill my belly. I might do that for lunch today. I got a bunch in my fridge right now. It's gonna be delicious.
I'm gonna take that 3-hour drive. I'll be there.
Oh, hey man, I got plenty sitting here, so you're more than welcome. But yeah, so James and Barney are very much alike. We got the suits. We've got the use of legendary. They even both have a blog.
Yeah.
And James even uses the phrase please. Now,
and I thought that was funny because that really more refers to Barney's job.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it got me kind of thinking about things. I have a question. Do we think that Barney taught James this lifestyle? Because we know how Barney started this lifestyle.
That
we
is
see
true.
that. You know, he was the hippie guy and everything.
He was.
And we find out later on that during that phase, James hadn't come out yet. Like he was quote unquote straight at that time. And so like I have to believe that Barney taught James this lifestyle.
Huh. I had never really thought about that.
Yeah. And it seems like James has kind of surpassed him. You know what I mean? Because Barney idolizes his brother. And so like when they're together, it seems like James is like the alpha of the two.
I can see what I mean? That.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because so there's a comment that Marshall makes during an episode one time. And it always rings true in my head where Barney and Ted are talking about playing the game. And Marshall's like, please, neither of you've got game. And Barney's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, if the game is, you know, hooking up with chicks, winning the game is getting married. Out of the three of us, only one of us is married.
Yeah.
So that means, therefore, I've got stronger game than, you know, you two. And that's always rang out in my head. And in this episode, you know, you've got James doing his thing where he's like, oh, let me help out my brother. You know, you go through the stages of seeing it, and then, like, you know, we get the big reveal at the end. And
yeah, I think that, I mean, I think, yeah, he won the game.
He won the game.
You know, Barney is forever playing that game.
I think that's also one of the reasons why Barney had such a hard time acknowledging it during this episode. Yeah. Because, like, you know, it's his brother. Like you said, he looks up to his brother. And all of a sudden now one of the few people that he has to look up to committed in a relationship with a kid.
Yep. And it's like he already lost Ted and Marshall. Now he's losing James to this, and he feels essentially alone, like he's on an island by himself throughout all of this. Which, yeah, I mean, I get that. If this is the life that you've been living for years, and for it to just now be completely uprooted, I get that. That can be difficult. Then we get a flashback showing them as kids, Barney and James as kids with their mother. Loretta, who we don't actually learn her name here, but we know from future episodes that her name is Loretta. Though we don't see her face, it's like from the waist down, and she is voiced. Do you know who she's voiced by?
No.
I as I watched it, I instantly was like, wait a minute, I know that voice. It's Megan Mullally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, she was on Will and Grace, Parks and Recreation. She's married to Nick Offerman from Parks and Recreation, and she's hilarious. And I was like, I know that voice. And so I was like, it's got to be her. So I went on to IMDb to double check, and sure shit, man, right there, it's like Megan Mullally uncredited as Barney's mom.
Nice.
I thought was pretty awesome. Don't know how they got her to do that, but hey, man, that's pretty bitchin', I think.
She probably wasn't doing much else at this time.
Probably. So Barney says that James is going to be his new wingman since Ted can't fulfill his duties anymore. And we get another little flashback, not as far back as the one we just saw, of them kind of helping each other score in various scenarios. I love the one where Barney's helping James, where he's like pretending to be unconscious.
Yes. Does anybody know mouth to mouth? I do. How about you?
How about you?
My favorite one is when they do the tough guy act.
Oh, the hero and the pig. That one.
Yeah.
Which dude. I because that's a little bit later, but I wrote a note in my notes about this. It sounds like something that Barney would put in the playbook.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, the name and everything. They have a fucking name for it. The hero and the pig. And it worked out. It was a good play.
You know what it kind of reminds me of when I think of like the way these two are together. And I know you'll get it. This might be a reference that's going to go over a few other people's heads. Let's play Get Help.
Yeah.
I don't want to play Get Help.
I don't want to play Get Help. For those of you who don't know that reference, please revisit the MCU a bit. Just saying. That's all. I'm not going to tell you where. I'm not. Just watch the whole thing. All the whole
thing. All everything. Like 20 some movies.
And 5 shows. 5 shows? I don't know.
No, be nice. Don't make them watch the shows.
I'm gonna go watch What If too. Actually, just complete side note. If you haven't watched What If, you probably should, because it seems like it's going to be linking into a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah,
so, yeah. Go watch that. But after you listen to our podcast, you can go watch that. So then James convinces everybody to go out to the club with him and Barney, instead of being lazy and staying at home. Once they get there, it's like they all kind of, or it's like Barney and James just kind of like fall into sync with one another. They're doing their thing, man. You see them in their element, and it's really cool to see just how much of like an oiled machine that it is for them. And they set their sights on a girl at the bar, and this is where they decide to do the whole hero and the pig thing. They see a girl with a back tattoo, and they go to work. They go to work.
I gotta say, this play is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, hey baby, I love your tramp stamp. It gets all up in her grill, man.
I love the exchange between the two of them though too.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, her art is a symbol of who she is. He's like, you want to do something? What? Okay.
What? He just backs off. Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect little play for the two of them. I don't know. I agree with you. It's a great one.
Sometimes I feel like 2-man plays work a lot better than 1-man plays.
Yeah, I agree, because you have somebody to help you get where you need to go. And Barney has become such a lone wolf, though. I think that's why he winds up doing this whole playbook, because
agreed.
Again, we see he lost like all his wingmen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Ted's constantly in and out of relationships.
Yeah, you can't.
From this moment on, James is with Tom, except for like a small window when they split up, like during like a little while, and Marshall's always with Lily.
Yeah, it's he's a lone wolf, so he needed plenty of plays, and it makes me. I wonder, because like we've talked a bit about over the last 2 seasons, you know. Oh, is this a prelude to him doing the playbook here and there? And it makes me wonder, does he really start doing the playbook after this? Because he needs plays that do not require a wingman now.
I could see that.
You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if this is kind of where it starts. We'll never really know when he's done. You know, I mean, I'm sure maybe if we ask the creators, maybe they have an answer, maybe they don't. I don't know. If I ever
that would be actually a really cool tweet.
Yeah, man. If we ever get a chance to like interview them, I'm asking them stuff like that. Like,
hell yeah,
we're gonna do crazy deep dive questions.
There's so much behind the snes shit I would love to know. Yeah. That we're not gonna know unless we get interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be working on those though. Got a lot of time, folks. Don't you worry. Charlene Amoya will not be the only interview we get.
You can make people jealous.
That's true. So then Future Ted explains how when you're at a club, you can tell the difference between singles and the couples. Singles, they're on their feet. They're drinking shots. Yeah, they're moving around. They're drinking shots, generally a bit more energized. Whereas couples are like obsessed with finding places to sit, kind of slow drinking, things like wine. And they just look like they don't want to be there. And I can vouch for this. I'm just saying. I can 100%.
I mean, first off, me and you, we did the bar thing our early 20s. We were burnt out on the bar scene before we even hit like 25.
It's true.
We did a lot more house parties than anything after that.
Oh yeah.
Even then though, we were always the guys who like we knew our shit.
Oh yeah, man. People would come to us to be entertained or to have an interesting conversation. Yeah.
Like that time we met Emilio Estevez.
Emilio! Side note, watching the Schmodown recently, that was a question. It's like, who was the celebrity that they talked about meeting in Night at the Roxbury? And as soon as I heard, I was like, Emilio!
The mighty Duck Man himself.
And nobody knew the answer. And I was like, what is happening here?
Wow.
It blew my mind. I was so upset. But that's neither here nor there. So a couple side notes here. Here at the club, we finally see Lily is the one wearing purple. She's wearing a purple blouse. And the two couples who are sitting, they're all four of them are drinking wine, which is something you rarely ever see.
That is true.
If ever, honestly. It's like Ted, Robin, Marshall, Lily, they all have wine in that scene. So I was like, okay. I'm sure it's just they're kind of pushing that point of, the single or the couples are the ones drinking, things like wine. But I feel like a beer could work too. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they were definitely
drinking... slow drink a beer.
Yeah, but they were definitely drinking beers at the second bar.
Yes. Yeah. Later on, they definitely
so I mean,
were. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just to kind of drive home that point of the couples. But it was just weird to see because, like, Ted and Marshall drinking a glass of wine is something you almost never. It's very rare.
I love, though, that we also get a very early reference to something that will come back later on. Marshall talks about how he's really mad because he can't order pink, fruity, girly drinks because, people get really, like, upset about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that really comes into play a little bit later, and I have a whole thing about that when it comes up later on. So James comes over as they're all sitting there. He starts complaining like about his feet. He's been trying to people, all these guys he's not into, been chasing him down and stuff. And so he uses the excuse that his feet are starting to hurt a little bit. And so, like, right then and there, it's like it's a little suspicious. It's like, okay, something's up. Something's definitely up. And then Robin and Lily start kind of talking and kind of complaining about their bras, which I've heard this complaint time and time again.
Oh yeah,
from whether it be women that I'm dating or friends of mine. I definitely do not envy having to wear a bra. Nah,
fair enough.
Does not seem pleasant at all. Then a creepy dude leans over and suggests that Lily just take it off. Let those puppies roam free. And then Marshall has a reaction that I was not a fan of, where he essentially sympathizes with this guy. He's like, "Oh, poor guy. It takes a lot of guts to approach a girl, and you just crushed him." And I'm like, I'm literally sitting here. I'm like, what the fuck, Marshall? Like, if it was me and some dude was like talking to my girl that way, I'd be like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah, I was totally thinking about that during the part of the episode too. I said, like, in my mind, I'm like, I'd probably just pick the fight.
I could see that.
I'm like, you want to fucking go outside? You want to fucking do this? Fucking walk away. I'm gonna knock your fucking ass out.
Like, you want to see my titties, bitch?
We're gonna do a magic trick. It's called my beer bottle, your asshole.
Fair. Then both him and Ted start kind of going off about, it's not so bad that, when you get hit on all the time, essentially kind of saying that they should be like happy that it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you guys really that dense? Like, come on. Like,
it's weird because this is where Marshall brings up the whole drink thing and everything.
Yeah.
And like, I really think they were trying to show gender equality during this scene, but it does not come off that way.
No, it makes the two of them look like assholes.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this came out in like 2006.
Yeah.
Things were a little bit different then.
And we're kind of used to Ted kind of at times looking like an ass, but like to see Marshall be like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that, especially at this point, and really at all throughout the season, it's a series that we're used to seeing. And so it's like, it kind of bothered me that it was Marshall starting this whole thing. I don't know. I was not a fan of that. Then a good-looking guy comes over, offers James a drink, which he declines. And the others look at him like he's crazy. Like, what are you doing? Apparently, he's had a bunch of guys come up, offer him drinks, and he's blown them all off all night. And this is when they realize that he's just as bad as they are.
Yep.
And he takes off. He goes out back into the crowd, and they spot him in the corner texting. And they realize, oh shit, I think James is in a couple. And I think it's funny because Robin is the one who has the reaction of, that can't be. He's Barney's brother. Like,
yeah,
I literally just met this fucking guy.
Yeah.
And like, I thought it was weird that she's the one having the reaction to it.
I mean,
she literally just met this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't know. She's acting like she's known him for known them for years.
Maybe and she has. I mean, they do share a cousin.
It's true. They are technically related, actually. I've never thought about it that way. That she is actually related to James, also, because it's through Loretta.
It is through Loretta.
So
Loretta,
yeah. So Barney comes over. They tell him, what they think is going on, and Barney doesn't want to believe it. Of course,
Well, I mean,
yeah, it's his brother. He doesn't want to believe that he's going to be monogamous. Nah, man, it's his wingman. So he looks over. He sees James,
wing bro.
Yeah, his wing bro, and he sees James on his phone, and he's like shocked. And he goes over there and he confronts him about it.
I was shocked. He had a sidekick.
Yes, he did. I mean, I bet that took you back, man.
That took
2006 took you way back.
That took me way back, man. So that's a fucking T-Mobile phone.
Kids, sidekick was a type of phone before these fancy dancy smartphones that we got, where it slid up, had an actual keyboard.
It didn't slide up though.
Was this the one that turned?
Swung up, yeah.
Yeah. And has an actual keyboard with real buttons, kids.
Hell yeah.
Real buttons. I know that seems insane to you, where everything is touchscreen. Yes, preposterous. Exactly. But it was a thing. It was definitely a thing. It's like the better version of a BlackBerry.
Yes.
Because those buttons on a BlackBerry are way too small.
Dude, they were way too small.
Yeah, especially if you have fat thumbs.
I was always a fan of the full keyboard. The slide-ups, full keyboards.
Yeah.
My fucking texting.
I had the actual, just slide-up one that had the full keyboard. Not
I remember that.
I don't remember what it was called, but I loved that thing. In that time frame.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went from having just a basic flip phone and having to do the 3-tap bullshit, cycling through the fucking letters. These kids nowadays, they don't know the pain.
Dude, I mean, and that's the thing, it went from being pressing the same button multiple times to full keyboard. Now you have swipe text.
Yeah. I'm still not used to that. I try it once in a while, and I'm just I have to really try to Dude, otherwise I'm just whatever, I'm just typing.
I swipe text way more than anything now.
Yeah, you got real used to it. I was like, oh shit, look at this guy. He's over here busting out fucking text like a crazy man. Oh yeah.
That's how I communicate. Anybody who ever wants to communicate with me, I don't really do phone calls. I'm more of a text message, instant message, DM me. So people, you ever want to reach out and contact me, I will definitely respond because I love talking to people. That's
true. He does. Hit him up on his Twitter. Yeah, it's right down there at the bottom.
J1, right there.
Right down there. So Barney winds up getting James's phone away from him and discovers that he is, in fact, in a relationship. There's a picture of him and his new guy right there on the phone. And James reveals that he's actually engaged to a guy named Tom. And so we kind of awkwardly cut from the club to McLaren's, and Barney is sitting there at McLaren's. It's we never see him leave or anything. It's just he's at the club, boom, now he's at McLaren's.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. It took me out of it for a second, but I got back in real quick. And he, like I said, he's just sitting there. James comes up to him to talk, and Barney's like, I'm not okay with this. And James is like, gay marriage? And he's like, no, not gay marriage, marriage. Barney we've seen this before. At this stage in Barney's life, marriage is it goes against everything he believes. And we know this because of both times that Lily and Marshall have gotten engaged.
Yeah,
he had that same kind of response. You know, like you should, like, what are you doing getting married? Like, don't be an idiot, Marshall. So like we already know that he is not a fan of marriage. And when it's his brother, his like eternal wingman, the guy who's been there for him for years, I feel like it's bigger. You know what I mean? That's why he has this bigger response. And James even asks him to be his best man, and he's just flat out like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's taking this real hard. Like,
I mean, it goes back to like we were talking about a little while ago. You know, Barney's not used to having people in committed relationships around him, except for Marshall and Lily. And now Ted's settling down. Now fucking James is settling down.
Yeah, because like Marshall and Lily were together when they met Barney.
Yep.
So like the entire time that he's known them, that's just been a thing. So he's never had he never really lost Marshall.
No.
You know, he lost Ted, and he loses Ted, you know, a bunch of times throughout the show. But
sometimes the unworthy women.
That is true. We'll see one of those next season.
Stella.
Oh yeah. So then we go back to the apartment. Marshall, this is where Marshall comes out of the kitchen with a fruity drink.
Yes.
But when Lily asks if he made it for her, he's just like, yeah, like he's embarrassed to admit that he made it for himself. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, listen, there is nothing wrong with enjoying a fruity drink. I love myself a good blended margarita. I love a Smirnoff Ice or like a Mike's Hard Lemonade way more than I would ever go for a beer.
True.
And I don't give a shit. Who knows? I don't care. I know people are like, oh, those aren't manly drinks. Well, fuck off. Get the fuck out of here with that.
I mean,
bullshit.
You're talking to the guy though who when we first started drinking, my drink of choice was a White Russian.
That is true. Like you were down for
Dude,
a White Russian.
I loved a good White Russian.
You know, White Russian.
Until I got told it was a bitch drink. And
maybe a mudslide. Throw a little chocolate in there. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, the whole like toxic masculinity of these drinks aren't for men. It's like if it's got, I'll be honest, most of those drinks tend to have more alcohol.
I was going to say most of those drinks have way more alcohol in them.
So
plus, sometimes they taste better. And this is coming from a guy who I drink beer. Oh, yeah. I like beer, but every once in a while, I just want to drink that tastes better.
Dude, man, I love fucking margaritas. Nice amount of tequila in there. Can't go wrong. It tastes fucking delicious, and you could get smashed off of that shit.
True statement.
Give me that all fucking day long. And you could put a pineapple wedge in there too. I'm down for it. Totally down.
Oh man.
So
put a pineapple in his drink, but don't put a pineapple on his pizza.
That's right. Fuck that noise. My margaritas aren't hot, so I don't want your pineapple anywhere near my pizza.
Oh man.
We're gonna start a war on the podcast.
I mean, I'm with you. I don't like pineapple on my pizza either, but I'm not a pineapple person overall. So,
and this was the day Last Call lost half its followers.
Oh, great! We're down to one.
So Barney comes in and starts talking about how marriage is gonna essentially like take over society. It's gonna kill off all single life. You know, because once the gays start doing it, then it'll spread out to everybody else. Just like waxing your chest, which I thought was great because he just throws that in there, and they're like, "Wait, you wax your chest?"
Yeah, and manicures.
Yeah, but we know that because he was getting one at when Lily and Marshall wanted to get married. So like we already knew that he did stuff like that. I think he was specifically getting a pedicure, but still, like we knew that. But they were super shocked about the chest waxing.
True.
I'm like, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. You know, he's what would become known. I don't think the term is used anymore, but would become known as a metrosexual. Yeah, that's really what he is.
I still use the term.
You know, it's just a guy who's like really takes care of himself. You know, with the grooming and everything. The way
I've always described metrosexual to people is like a person who could presumably be gay, but is straight.
Yeah, I
you
guess
know, well coiffed, good style.
yeah.
You know,
Who like is who has the stereotypical look of what you think of when you think of a gay person.
Yeah.
But isn't. Yeah. You know, that's definitely, I think, probably the most accurate way to describe that. And so really what all this is about is that he's afraid of losing James. Like we've talked about, you know, a few times already in this. He's afraid of losing James as his wingman, like how he's lost Ted and everybody. And in this scene, the side note here, Robin is now wearing the purple. She's wearing a purple shirt in this scene underneath her green sweater. And so Ted says that he should be celebrating with his brother instead of acting like this. And Barney, he gets an idea. He's going to take him out to celebrate. He's going to take him to a gay club.
To a gay club.
That's right. And so they all go to the club. Marshall finally has gotten himself a fruity drink, and he's like giddy about it.
Oh, so giddy.
It's hilarious to see him just kind of like acting like a kid, just so happy that he finally got himself a fruity drink. And then he gets hit on by a guy, kind of plays it off like he's flattered. Also, again, tries to deny that the drink is his.
Yeah. He's like, oh, it's my wife's. And she holds up her beer. She's like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. She's right there, just like smacks him right back down, which I thought was hilarious. And then the guy hits on Ted. Ted does the same thing. Like they're acting all like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is great.
Yeah.
Not making a big deal about any of it. Robin gets complimented by a gay guy, and she's happy because she's not being hit on. So it seems like, you know, everybody's kind of living the best scenario out of all the stuff that they had been talking about previously. We do learn later on that the girls, they miss it. They miss being hit on. Yeah. So James is talking to Barney about Tom when Barney tries to hook him up with some random guy. Then we see a shot of Robin and Lily dancing in cages randomly. I'm just like, okay.
They're enjoying their time, man.
Sure. Didn't know they would just let random people up in the cage, but hey, rock on, you know?
I'm sure they probably paid their way to get into that cage.
Yeah, probably. They're like, let's get in the cage. No guys are going to hit on us here. Let's do it. And then as the girls are off dancing, Ted and Marshall are having like a serious talk about something. And then a guy comes up and starts hitting on them. And this is where they start getting upset about it, because apparently they've been hit on by like 8 different guys at this point. Then they all head out. So like all this stuff happens real quick inside of this club.
Yeah.
Like, they're not there for very long. They all head out. This is where Lily and Robin say like they actually miss being hit on. They should go find like a sports bar. But Barney and James, you know, stay because they're well, I mean, James isn't single, but Barney's single. And he's keeping his brother there to celebrate. Yep. So Barney introduces James to another random guy who has tied a bunch of cherry stems together with his mouth. Barney hands him James's phone. And I noticed that he only has his phone for a matter of seconds. And yet he apparently was able to program his number into the phone without really doing any of that. Like,
true.
I was like, it's not very believable, but okay, sure. I'll roll with it. Whatever. Doesn't really matter that much to me. And James and Barney finally hash things out. Barney says James has abandoned him. You know, this is exactly what we were talking about. Barney feels left. He feels abandoned. You know, like he's a lone wolf on an island by himself now with no one left to crack open a coconut for him. Yeah.
You want me to crack a coconut for you?
Sure. You know, you could peel a pineapple for me. That'd be cool. Feed me some grapes. I'd be down. Come on.
Feed yourself some fucking grapes.
And he's trying to convince James to, like, you know, it's not too late to back out of this whole thing. That is until James reveals that he and Tom are going to have a baby. They're going to adopt.
They're going to adopt.
And Barney just like melts, man, at the idea of being an uncle. It's really kind of adorable. And then they hug and they make up. And then flash forward to a year later at James and Tom's wedding. Barney gives a toast. Then we go over to Marshall, and he's like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. We should be heading out. You know, they're getting kind of tired. Him and Lily are gonna leave. But Ted and Robin are gonna stay. And this is your first clue, your first little bit of foreshadow into what is coming if you're really paying attention.
Because Ted's tie is purple.
Yes. At this point, Ted's tie is purple. We don't know what's gonna happen when we were first watching it. You know, if you've never seen what comes, you know, soon, but rewatching it, knowing what comes, seeing the fact that they were foreshadowing this, they were telling you right here. We also learn here Marshall and Lily are married at this point. So like, again, if you had never seen any of it, you know, like when they were first airing it, you're like, oh shit, okay, within a year, Lily and Marshall are married.
Yep.
Okay. Ted and Robin, they get up to go and dance. And on the surface, if you're not really paying as close attention, it just seems like they're still together. Nothing is different. No big deal. Because they were together here. You have no real reason to believe that they wouldn't be together a year from now.
Yeah.
But as we know, they break up not too long from here.
No.
It's at some point during this season that they break up. And seeing as this scene is 1 year later, this is post Thanksgiving, which means it's post Slapsgiving.
Yep.
And during that episode, they were having a lot of friendship issues, and that's when they wind up having sex, and their friendship reforms at the end of the episode. So it like when you look back at it, it explains why they're kind of chummy here, and you know why they're willing to like dance with one another and everything, because as the season and the first half of next season goes on, things really start to fall apart with them.
They do.
And it doesn't start to come back together until after Slapsgiving. And so it really, like, I don't know if they planned it all this way with this scene or how it really went. I'd love to ask them how far they were planning everything when it comes to this. But, like, it fits really, really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I noticed that too, like, because like they had like the single energy again, and like, you know, they're dancing, and then I was like, oh man, yeah, that breakup's coming soon, and I fucking hate it. Yeah,
and the single stamina thing, like, that's exactly the reason why they stayed, because that's your first foreshadow. If you're really paying attention, is they're both willing to stay because they're both single.
Yep.
At the time, Ted is at this point. Ted is actually close to not being single, because he would have met Stella by now.
That is true.
And things would have been starting to percolate.
It's really funny, though, because that makes something else that happens in that scene more explainable, too.
Okay.
They're dancing on the floor. The woman and the man to the right, like when you're watching the screen, there was a couple off the right. She was wearing a bright yellow dress.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Wow, okay. Huh. But, yeah, you know, a big foreshadow scene here. And if you're not paying attention, it'll just fly right by you.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what I love about rewatching the show after we've seen it so many fucking times. Catching these little things and being able to talk about them. And that is why, folks, that is the exact reason why we do not hold back on spoilers.
True.
You know, because like there are other How I Met Your Mother podcasts that do no spoilers, and that's great for them. Cool. I couldn't imagine doing this show without being able to dive into how it connects to everything.
I was going to say, I couldn't imagine trying to do spoiler-free episodes either, because there's so much that, like, we'll talk about something, I'll be like, oh, man, this makes me want to talk about this, which makes me want to talk about this. And
yeah, it would be very difficult, and I feel like it gives us a little something extra for the fans.
True.
For the real fans. So, like, I'm sorry if this is your first watch-through, but hey, you know, watch it and then come back and rewatch it with us.
Yes.
Just saying. I think that's your best bet. You know, you can binge through the whole thing quick and then just come back through and listen to the show after. Then we meet James and Tom's baby boy. Barney talks to him, but he's going to teach this kid how to live. And then in the final scene, Barney is consoling this beautiful woman who is upset because, as she puts it, Tom used to love my breasts. I don't know what happened. And then they start making out, and Barney connects eyes with the baby, and the baby smiles. And the first time when I rewatched this episode, my first thought was, man, this random dude must have been an idiot he was into this chick. I mean, she specifically mentions her breasts, and they are fantastic. It's like, why the hell would you dump this girl based on that? Then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, she says Tom. So she's like Tom's ex. Like, yeah, he's gay now. That explains.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I'm like, she said Tom. Like,
yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that made I had to change my note in here because I had a whole note about that, and I had to change it to, "This is why you don't invite exes to your wedding."
Yes.
Which then comes back later on, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, that right there, that is the end of this episode, season 2, episode 10, Single Stamina. John, what are your thoughts on this episode? Your final thoughts?
It's a decent episode. It's not some of the other types of episodes, but it's definitely a good episode.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to come off of something like Slap Bet.
True.
You know what I mean? Come off super. It's always going to look a little weaker when you're coming off of such a great episode. That is like true. That. I like that we got to meet James finally. We get a little bit more insight, and I think the ending helped boost my like of it more because I know what's coming. Fair. If this was my first time watching it, it wouldn't affect that, I feel like, at all. But knowing where things will go and how it really affected things, I really enjoyed that. Yeah. All right, so let's dive into the last part of our show. That is Barney's blog.
Suit up, bitches.
That's right. All right, so this entry is titled Stinson v. Stinson. It was written Tuesday, November 28th of 2006. It says, if there's one person in this world I trust to dispense advice to all my loyal barnacles out there, it's my brother James. Now, I know what you're thinking. Barney has a brother? How can two Stinsons coexist without catastrophically and violently crossing the streams? Well, as Stinson luck would have it, James is gay. Crisis averted. And while we naturally agree on many issues, we sometimes conflict over some key divisive issues. Below is a reprinted version of a live chat session in which we matched Stinson wits on 3 questions from loyal blog readers. If you don't have the time to read, well, the results are no surprise. I won easily. So the first question was, we all know gay guys dress better. What's up with that? So James starts this one off. He says, it is true that gay guys inherently dress better than straight guys. You might say it's the genes, in quotes, in the gene, but it's spelled like the pants kind of jeans. It says, I'll tell you why we dress better. Necessity. Since gaydar unfortunately doesn't exist, we have to rely on our strong sense of style to weed out breeders when out of town. Sandals and socks, have fun with the ladies. Our Armani pinstripe 2-button suit with neatly pressed slacks, I'll see you on the dance floor. Then Barney interjects. He's like, if I could interject for a moment, while many gay guys dress better than many straight guys, I wouldn't say that's true in all cases. James, I would expect you of all people to be sensitive to sweeping generalizations and stereotypes. To say I'm disappointed would be an understatement. And B, 2 buttons? Are you trying to pick somebody up or christening a yacht? 2 buttons? James, please. And James is like, Barney, cue the F. You asked me to answer some reader questions. Barney says, oh, I'm not entitled to my own opinion on my own blog? And James comes back with, not when you're clearly wrong. The fact that you'd opt for 3 buttons over 2 only reiterates my point. Gay dudes dress better than straight dudes. And Barney's like, agree to disagree. Then they do. Let's see. The next question was, how do you stay in such great shape? Barney, Stinson men are blessed with an aggressively high metabolism. We work out when we sleep. That's not what you want to hear, but I cannot tell a lie. James says, and what's laser tag? A stroll through the park? What about yoga? You told me you were taking yoga classes. Barney says, nope. James, yes, you texted me a haiku just last week. Going to yoga. Hot chicks, tight clothing, flexibility. Barney, I'm not taking yoga classes. I'm taking from yoga class. Why sit through an hour of painful, sexless stretching in some stinky room when I can simply sit outside and pick off some veritable gymnast as she's leaving? It's like window shopping, but not as taxing. And James responds with genius. And this one got me to remember there is actually an episode where he does this. Remember the episode where he like steals the girl from Ted and like they're like in each other's head about it? Yeah. He does this. He hangs outside the yoga studio with the yoga mat, and that's how he picks her up. I was like, oh, I don't remember where that is in the show.
Shit, that's I want to say like season.
But they like, but I mean, just in the blog they set this up, which I think is hilarious that they did that. And then the last question that they took was, what is your favorite pickup spot? Barney, other than directly outside a yoga class? James, please. As Barney will no doubt corroborate, any place you're at can easily become a hot pickup spot. That being said, I find the easiest place to meet men is in a gay club. When I'm feeling lazy, that is. All I have to do is walk in and smile, and I'm pretty much guaranteed to go home with somebody. Barney, I do corroborate. Any place you're at can very easily become a hot pickup spot. That being said, I find the easiest place to meet women is also at a gay club. There are always groups of unsuspecting straight women who've let their guard down, expecting a fun night of dancing in an environment free from roaming gentlemen. And that's where Barney comes in. Either way, James, I'm surprised at you. James, but you just agreed with me. Barney, yes and no. Picking up straight women at a gay club requires finesse and dedication. Yes, it's easy, but I still don't get to just walk in and smile. James, but you wish you could. How jealous are you that I got all the good looks? Barney, that's all the time we have. See you next week. That was a fun one.
That was.
I enjoyed that one quite a bit. So unless you got anything else you want to talk about in this episode, I think we should wrap things up. John, let everybody know where they can find you.
I'm still on Twitter at Simply Saying J1, the Twitter that corresponds with my podcast and my blog. If you haven't checked it out already, go ahead and go over and check it out. Josh, what about you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at JP Raynor. That's JPRAYNOR. As well as right down here at Movie Blog Merc. That is the Twitter page for my site, Merc with Movie Blog. If you're watching this on YouTube, you are watching it on the Merc with Movie Blog YouTube channel. Be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, click that little bell so you always get notified whenever I drop a brand new video. If you're listening on podcast form, you go over to anchor.fm/lastcall HIMYM. Leave us a voice message. We will play that on air. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you feel like leaving us a 5-star review, we will read that out on air. We've done that many, many times. So please do that. It helps us out, gets us higher up in the rankings. More people will find us that way. It's really, really appreciated.
And it's really awesome of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We love every time we see one. It warms the heart. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Last Call HIMYM. I'm on there quite often, so if you got any questions, comments, concerns, put them out there. You know, we will address them. You know, if you got a funny meme you want to share that funny meme. I love that kind of stuff. So this has been the latest episode of Last Call at McLaren's. John, that's all I got for him. What do you got for him?
Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to go home, but you can't listen here.
All right, catch you next time.